Were you planning to attack the target with that frame? The young child stepped forward with confidence, and the drill teacher laughed heartily. The whole group of recruits broke into a round of applause in panic. She stayed mute, just raising her hand to change her stance, while some of them even feigned to slip and fall. When her shirt was slightly lifted, a tattoo of a black snake surrounding a bullet was seen. Behind her, a colonel paused, took a step back, and muttered, "That's a black viper." Greetings, Marcolina Beck, a 28-year-old European woman, had calm, blue eyes, a tiny body, fair skin, and long, well-groomed hair. She was nicknamed Little Miss Shot, or the Extra, by her teammates on the first day of her sniper training at Northwest Base because she was quiet, consistently showed up early, and cleaned everyone's guns without asking. Alina simply asked to be an observer and did not fire in order to better assess wind direction and behavior. Why did you sign up? If you're scared to pull the trigger, the drill instructor asked her bluntly. I've shot before, she replied, lowering her head and whispering, but I don't want to repeat it if I'm not ready. Her composed manner made the other students' frantic laughter look insincere.
Oh.
She was obviously more than just a toy gun handler. Because of her painstaking attention to detail, which included cleaning every component of the rifle and verifying the sight alignment, she observed how temperature changes impacted bullet trajectory, determined wind speed by observing grass movement, and tracked targets with mathematical accuracy. So why didn't she get fired? The other recruits exchanged looks as the chief instructor. Sergeant Mills whispered softly, I need to remember why I stopped. Her words carried something deeper than fear that caused the training area to feel instantly colder. She spent hours after training sitting by herself, staring at the targets at close range. Her fingers would trace the snake tattoo absently, as if recalling something she wished she could forget. The recruit's mockery became more cruel, but Alina never responded. She simply went about her daily routine, arriving first, leaving last, and meticulously maintaining everyone's equipment. One evening, Sergeant Mills discovered her cleaning rifles in the dark. What are you doing, Beck? Our eyes briefly carried. Something old for when someone needed them to function flawlessly, and she murmured that she was prepared for what she was looking up. Have you ever witnessed a skilled person being undervalued or treated unfairly? During a live ammunition training session, Alina was made to go first, even though she hadn't fired a single shot yet. The instructor shouted, "One bullet, miss it, and you're out." She said nothing and just gently wiped the rifle barrel with her hand. As she adjusted her stance, a drill instructor noticed a black tattoo of a snake wrapped around a bullet, with the snake's head carved with BB-12. The instructor was about to reprimand her for getting tattoos to look cool. But a colonel watching from a distance, Colonel Stein, suddenly approached his eyes. Strangely, he bent down to take a close look, then took a half-step back and whispered to the instructor to stop her. The instructors were horrified, but Black Viper was disbanded after the Red Line operation, and no one survived. The training ground fell silent. Even the wind seemed to stop. The cheeks of Colonel Stein flushed palely. He had served in the Red Line campaign as a young lieutenant, a covert operation that had never really happened. He was troubled by memories of viewing the marked dead list and reading the after-action reports. Kier's body has not been found, not just any unit. Black Viper was the ghost that operated in areas that were inaccessible to regular forces. They were urban warfare specialists, and each member was worth a platoon. Stein asked softly, "How many were in your unit?" 12. The other recruits had completely stopped laughing. They didn't understand the significance, but they could feel the weight of it, the way Colonel Stein's hands trembled slightly, the way other instructors had unconsciously stepped back. "The BV-12 on your tattoo butt." Alina's voice was barely audible, and she looked at him with those serene eyes. "At your unit number, no," Stein added. "Simply put, that's how many I couldn't save." Far away, amid the deafening silence, a flag waved in the breeze, in an effort to regain his calm. Sergeant Mills cleared his throat and told Beck, "You must still fire your shot." Alina nodded as she took the same deliberate steps she had been using for weeks to steady herself as she approached the firing line. But everyone was looking at her in a different way this time. Her movements assumed the smooth, instinctive motions of someone who had performed this task thousands of times before, as she assumed her position. When she was being teased by one of the recruits, Ma'am approached her, halfway to her shoulder. She paused the rifle and inquired, "What was Black Viper like?" Whispering, "Quiet, sir," she said. "We were very, very quiet. It's type I was incorrect if you've ever made a mistake in judging someone." Colonel Stein abruptly stopped the training session, and the whole class fell silent. "She doesn't need training because she saved my life at Hill 9 with a shot from about 900 meters, Stein said softly, as Alina continued to experience the emotions she had been trying to bury for the last 3 years. All of the instructors and recruits stood, silently. According to her, Hill 9 was supposed to be a simple extraction, resonating through the deserted training area. Calmly, she added, "Intelligence," said one hostile sniper we found, 17. "I didn't save you. I simply did what was necessary to get the whole team home." With a firm salute, Stein held up his hand. Colonel Stein's face became white as he remembered that day's events in a new way. He remembered that you were confined in that building for 6 hours, that he was pinned down, that his radio operator was dead, and that his ammunition was getting low. Alina went on, indicating the northwest corner of the 4th floor, where you were hurt and attempting to use a dead radio to call for help. "How did you find out?" Stein said in a whisper, "that he had been using his scope to monitor you for 6 hours from the clock tower, which was 873 meters distant. He witnessed you checking your ammunition count 17 times and using your sleeve to bandage your head wound during that period. You could hear heartbeats on the training ground because it was so silent." Stein's hands were shaking now, as you remember. "But according to our information, yours was wrong. Before you even knew I was there, I had already killed 11 adversaries. I fired my shot at the 12th attacker because he had you in his sights as you tried to get close to the window. We were the unit they sent when everyone else was already dead. And we were the ones who went in after the official missions failed." One of the recruits, a young man named Patterson, who had been particularly cruel in his jokes, spoke up. "But why didn't you tell us why we should think that way?" "Because," Alina interrupted, "the moment you start believing your own legend, you're already dead." She turned to face the recruits who had been making fun of her for weeks. "We had a saying that the best shot is the one that no one remembers because everyone survived. Oh, and a third shot, a third target that was almost invisible in the distance fell. But sometimes," she said, lowering the rifle, "sometimes people remembered. If you've ever been saved by someone, you never get to thank them, right? I owe a debt." "Colonel Stein, you said that I saved you with 1 shot. That's not entirely accurate." The rifle cracked once downrange. The target split perfectly in half. Alina left the base without continuing the training course, and the following morning on the shooting table there was an M24 rifle that was spotless, a folded black cloth, and a small note that said, "Remember why we pick up rifles in the first place." At the shooting range, a group of students placed a small picture frame of Black Viper. They never yelled, but when they fired, no one remembered. However, before she left, Alina did something unexpected. She asked to speak to the recruits. One last time. These young men and women who had been making fun of her for weeks were now sitting in total silence. You might think that this is about shooting, but it's really about the weight of responsibility. Every bullet carries someone's son, daughter, or future. It meant taking on the role of the protagonist, but heroes don't sit around in the dark for 16 hours waiting for a good opportunity. Additionally, heroes don't have to shoulder the responsibility of people they couldn't save. "How do we become like you?" I ask. The most vicious recruit, Patterson, held up his hand in response to the query. Alina smiled for the first time since coming to the base, but it wasn't a joyful one. "Simply you don't," she said.
"You become
better. You turn into the me that keeps everyone alive, the one that brings all 12 teammates home." Then she got up to go, but stopped. She suddenly realized that the person seated next to her, the one you might not believe belongs here, could end up saving her life in the future. She instructed the recruits to show respect for one another. Following her departure, the recruits found that she had left behind a training plan that would challenge them beyond their wildest expectations. as well as thorough notes on their shooting techniques and customized advice for growth.
Nice.
She had scribbled the identical statement at the bottom of each note. You become the version of me that ... Do you doubt yourself? Prove to the world that you are mistaken? SGT Mills would show recruits the notes and explain that the famous fighter wasn't here to learn, but to teach. We were just too stupid to understand when they asked about the famous Black Viper, who had briefly trained at their facility years later. Type 4 CTA comment: people who don't feel the need to shoot have no proof because they have shot in places no one is willing to remember. If you think that the greatest people never brag about who they are, then I will live my life in harmony with you. Alina's tattoos are live evidence that her team, the Black Vipers, was never officially recognized. Never make fun of the reserved, the person who doesn't show off their position, or the person who assists you in cleaning your weapon. When you're at your lowest, you never know when that individual might be the one to save your life. The real soldiers are those who quietly endure wars. While meticulously cleaning weapons they hope they will never need again. People who remember every shot, who don't care about recognition or admiration, who just need to know that they'll be ready when called upon, and who occasionally need to be reminded of the value of the lives they're protecting. Remember that the most vocal person is rarely the most dangerous. The most dangerous people are frequently those who would rather stay anonymous, as though they would rather never be identified.